Good morning, good afternoon, good evening, wherever you are in the world. My name's Jade, and this is the Rant. And today we're going to be ranting about WWDC 2025. What is next? We will find out what has come before and try to guess what's coming next. So, hello and welcome to the show. My name is Jade and this is The Rant, and I hope you're doing okay. Jesus, that was close. Hey, it's the start of a brand new week here in Australia, Monday morning, Sunday for the rest of you, and we're kicking off with The Rant as we usually do. I'm a poet and I didn't know it. If you didn't know, WWDC is tomorrow, and is anybody excited? Anybody? Hello? Is anybody? I'm not. I'm done. And I'll hopefully point out the reason why for this, because over the years, things have gradually gotten less exciting. But there's a reason for that, and to sit here and go, oh, they're just not innovating enough for me is probably a little bit of an underthink, because really, what is there left to do? Except maybe, I don't know, some things that are really boring and nobody wants to hear about, like, I don't know, communicate with your developers and help them create a system where they can offer trials, or, I don't know, tell them the features that are coming before it comes out, so they may be ready to like have their apps ready to go day one. I don't know, maybe release things that you say you're going to release, like Apple Intelligence. We shouldn't talk about Apple Intelligence. We'll say it out loud. Fucking somebody at Apple is crying into their piles of money right now. But we'll talk about all of that. Hello, and welcome to The Rant, to Jamie Lynn and Studio 6+1, who is our featured guest this week on the interview. And I have all these deets, and I just got to set up everything today, and that should be up on the channel momentarily, if moments are like quite a few hours from now. Joe Glenn, hello. Barry Glenn's in the house. They're both, I think they're both reconnected and in love and in each other's arms, because they were separated for a little while there, but now they're back smooching and they're all happy. Isn't that right, Joe? Thanks, Thomas, for banging the stuff, all this important stuff that you can do. Tremor Bear, hello. Russ8889. Folks, please stay around to the end of the show, or I'm going to save it to the end of the show. Russ just dropped a video, a little bit of an announcement that everybody who's involved in the community Music for Life project should pay attention to, because there's a couple of songs we haven't been able to match up with the artist, and this video is kind of doing a call out saying, hello, is this your song? So we'll do that at the end of today's episode. I think what I'm going to start off by doing is giving a breakdown of WWDC. Now, contrary to what a lot of people think, is that 2007 the iPhone was announced, and I think, you know, we all have this recollection that maybe it was at WWDC when in fact it wasn't at WWDC. WW is normally midway through the year in June. But the iPhone announcement, the original iPhone announcement, was in January of that year. So it was done, I think it was done at Macworld. I think it was at Macworld. Don't quote me. I didn't look that information up. Maybe I should. Let's have a look. Where was the first iPhone announcement? I'm curious now. The first iPhone announcement was January 9, 2007. Steve Jobs was using his legendary keynote at Macworld conference. Remember Macworld? Does anybody remember Macworld? Does it even exist anymore? I don't even know, but it was a thing back in those days. So I'm going through WWDC stuff today from 2007. So from when the iPhone had been released and we started to get to all the craziness that is the explosion of iOS and domination in the phone market of Apple. So in 2007 at WWDC, Apple announced macOS Leopard. And what were some of the features in that? So we had Time Machine. Man, 2007 was Time Machine. Time Machine Spaces and a redesigned Finder. The Spaces. Do Spaces even exist anymore? This is the thing. This is one of the things that Apple really doesn't get, people don't cover a lot of. It kind of gets swept under the carpet, but Apple release a lot, announce a lot of shit, kind of like me on this channel. I'm saying I'm going to finish a song and I don't, so I'm like the protege of Apple, but they announce a bunch of things that just don't end up flying and just vanish into the ether. And we'll get to that with last year, because last year was probably their biggest fumble, in my opinion, of all time. So Safari for Windows was announced back in 2007, announced to expand Apple's browser to Windows users. So they announced Safari for Windows in 2007, and the iPhone development introduced web apps. So the iPhone had come out, and at the keynote, they announced web apps. Remember how Apple thought web apps were going to be the future of iOS? Boy, were they wrong, and I'll tell you why they were wrong. Hello! Because there was a group of us out there, and I'm going to interweave my story into this. Hello, FPC and Paws and Guitars. G'day, g'day. So, when the iPhone came out in 2007, I purchased one, and it was, people thought I was stupid because you couldn't use it here because it was tied to a US carrier, and it wasn't really a worldwide product. And they had this exclusive deal with the carrier. People were shitty about it. You could only use it on that carrier for the longest. I can't even think of who it was. Americans in the chat will know. It's not Verizon. It was, I can't think of who it is. Anyway, they were big, if they're still around. Who knows? But so they were tied to that contract. And I bought one of these phones and had it imported to Australia. And AT&T, thank you, Thomas. I knew you'd be the one who'd put that out there. So I couldn't use my iPhone, and it was different then because there was no app store. It didn't release with an app store. The iPhone came out, and the only app store there was Hello, the one I was a part of. So the jailbreak community was my life all the way up until 2015. I'm not going to lie. One of the reasons I got into iOS, got into the first iPhone, was to hack it. That's what I wanted to do. I wanted to get involved. Cydia was a thing. Jailbreaking was a thing. As a small underground movement that unlocked the phones to be able to be used on different carriers. You could do anything, even turn the camera into a video camera. There were so many tweaks and stuff that were going around, and Apple were pissed. They were pissed. They were like, hang on a minute, we spent all this money designing this thing, and you guys are wrecking it. You're taking it apart, you're finding exploits, and you're making it do things that we're not allowed to do with them. And we were like, yeah, that's the point. And ironically, as the years went on with jailbreaking, Apple decided to crack down, and they decided to do everything they can to stop people from jailbreaking their devices and introduce such bizarre things like SSH blobs. So you would have to store all these extra things to be able to, oh man, it was a huge cat and mouse game. Zurich was a big part of the jailbreak community with Cydia. Cydia was like the first app store that was available on iOS. As I said, it's a hack. It wasn't approved by Apple. But the irony, just before we move through the rest of these WWDCs, the irony was at the end of this whole situation was basically every cool feature that you have now on your iPhone, apart from AI, but AI is not really cool. It's shit. We all know that. Because nobody uses it. We didn't ask for it, and it's probably, in my opinion, Apple would have been best to go against AI and not do that. Remember? Think different. Kind of lost their way a little bit there, didn't they? Thinking different isn't just like giving it your own name and being the same shit in a different bucket. But getting back to jailbreaking, so if it wasn't for the jailbreak community, you wouldn't have the majority of great features that you have on your iPhone and iPad. You wouldn't have a file system because the files, we had a file system as jailbreakers. there was so many things. The notification center, everything came from jailbreaking. Every single thing. And some of those things came out in like 2018. Apple released these things. We're like, look at this new thing. It's like, dude, we've had this on our phones through jailbreaking for the longest time. And the beautiful thing about it was this really weird symbiotic relationship with Apple and the jailbreak community. Publicly, they hated our guts. Everything that we did, they said, you know, we were destroying the phone. We were making it do things that it wasn't meant to do. It doesn't have the capabilities to do these things. That's why they haven't been implemented. But tweakers are going to tweak. And we continued to tweak and add new things and do all this stuff. And so at the same time, Apple were putting like this public face of like trying to stop it by, coming up with new workarounds to block jailbreaking and to find exploits. But at the same time, they were taking all of the hard work that was made by the exploit people and using it in iOS updates. And the reason I'm talking about this now is because as we go through this list of things that were announced at WWDC, all these things that we were doing and jailbreaking and they were just announcing 2 years later. It was really ridiculous. Now, I stopped jailbreaking in about 2015. I think it was my iPhone 5. I stopped jailbreaking because around the corner was, well, obviously, as jailbreakers, we were being segregated pushed into this corner where we were like lepers and we were touted by Apple as bad people, hackers and all this bullshit, where we were being simultaneously used for everything that was coming out at the time. And so they were on a really good wicket, right? They really didn't need to sit there and go, what can we come up with? There were people doing it for them and they were being demonized for it. So, I knew I'd got sick of playing the cat and mouse game because you've got to remember back then, the only way you could, the only way you could back up your phone or do anything with it was to connect it to iTunes. It was a massive pain in the ass. And if you connected an iPhone that had been jailbroken to iTunes, goodbye. You'd lose your jailbreak. There were tethered jailbreaks, untethered jailbreaks, semi-tethered jailbreaks. I mean, it was a thing, and Apple were doing everything they could to stop it, and they couldn't. And in the end, their game plan was just to add all the tweaks. just release all the tweaks that the jailbreak community had made. And that's pretty much what happened. So Apple knew, getting back to where we were, this tangent that I went on from, this came from WWDC 2007 because Apple's development team introduced web apps on the first iPhone for third-party development, disappointing developers hoping for a native SDK. Yeah, that was the thing. So web apps, there was never any plan to have an app store, pretty much. But the jailbreak community in Cydia forced the arm, and now we have the app store that we have today. In 2028 was my first official iPhone that I purchased that actually worked. Because in 2028, Apple's WWDC, back then, for a few years, Apple were announcing at WWDC their phones. This was a thing for the next, I think, 4 years, I think. 3 years. They were actually announcing new phones on these things. So what is WWDC? What is it? It's been around for a lot longer than where I'm starting this timeline today. It's the Worldwide Developers Conference. It's meant to be a thing that Apple come together with developers to help them get the best out of their new operating system, their new features, communication, a two-way street where developers feel like they're a part of the system, part of the growing ecosystem, and the millions of apps that Apple would announce at every WWDC. Look at, we've got another 100 million apps on the App Store. And this was supposed to be the chance for developers to get a grip on what's going on with the latest updates and where Apple are going. So they had some insider knowledge. So in 2008, the 3G came out. It was my first iPhone that worked. came with 3G connectivity, GPS, lower price point. Even though it had all this new stuff compared to the first iPhone, the App Store was announced in 2008, announced as a platform for third-party developers. And back then, we didn't have iOS. It was iPhone OS 2.0. So that was introduced to support third-party applications as well. So, you know, we didn't just have the calculator app. This was a chance for developers to get involved. And in 2009, they released the 3GS, a minor upgrade, and this is where we had the dot point updates for many years, where you would get your main iOS device that would come out, new iPhone, and then the next year would be a point. What was it? They called it an S. And the first one I remember, it wasn't for speed. Isn't that what they said? S for speed. Yeah, wasn't really that fast. Improved performance, better camera. And we got iPhone OS 3.0, which featured, believe this, believe me in this when I say this, 2009. Cut, copy, paste. Apple came to the game with cut, copy, paste. A huge step forward, larger than man walking on the moon. Cut, copy, paste. People were bugging out of their brains over it like it was the newest thing since sliced bread. And holy shit, possibly one of the first things you would think you would put into any operating system. Came 2 years after the thing had been in people's hands. Utterly ridiculous. MMS. Can you believe this? MMS was added to iOS 3.0 in 2009. MMS, if you don't know what MMS is, I'm sure there's people who have no idea what MMS is. It's the ability to send a photo over text. Wow. They actually added the spotlight search. So I mean, the reason I'm going through this stuff is to, I don't know, be reminded that for the longest time, I think people have this, I think we do romanticize about the way things happened. And because, you know, nobody's got the time or energy to go back and fact check all this stuff. And so we have this thing that Apple have been iterating on such a big scale back in the day when they first released this stuff. And sure, the initial release of the phone was groundbreaking, yeah? Absolutely groundbreaking, because nobody wants to, you know, I had a Motorola Flip. It was horrible. Shit, games were sucky. Everything was slow. It was miserable. You remember those days, yeah? It's terrible stuff. But how much have Apple really iterated? Like, you know, cut, copy, paste, man. It's ridiculous. Spotlight search. MacBook Pro got an update in 2009 at WWDC as well. So it got a whole new update, refreshed with better battery life, SD card slots. That's it. Again, not great iterations, you know, and there's been a lot of fails. A lot of the things you're going to probably hear in these things that they released over the years don't exist anymore. Mac OS was Snow Leopard for 2009 at WWDC 2009. 2010 saw the release of the iPhone 4, introduced a brand new design. See, these are the pivotal moments for me for WWDC or any phone announcement, is when there's a new design. It's exciting. It got a Retina display, front-facing camera. This was a pretty big update. iOS 4. We moved from iPhone OS 3 into iOS 4. 2010 was the first year of iOS 4. It brought multitasking, folders, iBooks. Anyone use iBooks? Anyone? I'll wait. I actually have a lot of books in my iBooks. Believe it or not, do I have iBooks on my, let's see. I do. Let's see. Welcome to Apple iBooks. Oh, wow. It apparently thinks I don't. Oh, look, I do. I've got some books. Not much, but you see, oh, look, I've got some Superman comics. I've got, I think most of these were free. But on my iPhone, you wouldn't believe how many books I think I have a gigabyte of books on my iPhone. So there's that. But iBooks was announced on this year. And it was a big thing, wasn't it? I remember it being a huge thing. People got upset over the icon. People get upset a lot of the time, don't they? iBooks was for iPhone and iPad. Also, a huge thing that was announced for WWDC 2010 was FaceTime. Really big announcement, and I'm sure if you own an iOS device, you've used FaceTime. It's super handy. It's one of the best features they have added. We moved to 2011, and thank you everybody for being here and listening to my rant today. It's a bit, we'll get to the meat soon. G'day, Brad. 2011, iOS 5 introduced Notification Center. All right, let's just back up. iOS 4 introduced multitasking and folders, two things that were already on iOS many years before for jailbreaking. At least 2 years before these things were already available as jailbreak. And on 2011, Notification Center. We already had one. It was ridiculous. It's so completely stolen. iMessage and Newsstand. Anyone use Newsstand? Newsstand got combined with books, didn't it? I'm pretty sure it did. So Newsstand was a standalone app, or it became news now, or magazines. Who knows? See, Apple just released these things. They throw shit to the wind, and a lot of the time it doesn't really pay off. iCloud was announced in 2011 as well, announced as the cloud storage and syncing service. So we've had iCloud for a while, 2011. There you go. I didn't even realize that. A bit of information. Hugh Caldwell has snuck in. G'day, Hugh. So 2011, Mac OS was Lion, the big Lion, showcased with features like Mission Control and Launchpad. Do they exist anymore? It's a thing. WWDC 2012, the MacBook Pro with Retina display was released at the event. Introduced a high-resolution screen, so they'd taken the iPad screens, the high resolution, and got it all on a Mac finally. iOS 6 was announced with probably one of the most controversial iOS releases. Was all this drama. We'd just gone through Google splitting up with Apple. So if you remember, the very first iOS releases came with YouTube installed, Google Maps installed, and well, Google started releasing phones. They created their operating system, and then they turned around to Apple and said, hey, you know all those maps? You're not using them. We're taking them and you're not using them. So Apple was stuck in a rock and a hard place, having to deal with their competitor and continue to use Google Maps until they could come up with their own solution. And 2012 was the year that they rolled out the incredibly not ready to be rolled out Apple Maps. And boy, were the jokes thick and fast of roads just disappearing into oceans and the countless drama that came with that. Passbook was released, which we now, what is it these days? I mean, they've gone through so many name changes. Remember Facebook integration? Remember this? They were touting how they made a big deal with Facebook and Facebook integration, and in settings, there was a whole Facebook section that you could go in and sign in, and everything was going to be, and man, remember, I can't even remember what it's called. Does anybody remember when the iTunes released that Twitter service thing they had going? Oh man, what was it called? It was awful. Let's see if I can find it. Apple iOS, it was in iTunes, wasn't it? iTunes Twitter-like service. See if I can find it. It was shit. We're doing a search, and it failed miserably. Nobody got into it. Ping, that's what it was called. Ping. Apple's venture into social networking with its music ecosystem began with iTunes Ping, launched on September 1st, my birthday, described by Steve Jobs as Facebook and Twitter meet iTunes. Ping allowed users to follow artists and friends, share music preferences, see concert information. Despite amassing over 1 million users in 48 hours, the service struggled to maintain engagement and was discontinued September 30, 2012. Holy shit, not even a year. It was shit. Let me tell you. Hang on, when did they say it was announced? So 2 years it lasted. Fuck me. That is really shit. Yeah, it was a debacle. Nobody used it. There was heaps of people when it first kicked off because I had a heap of friends on there, but none of us were sharing shit. So Facebook integration was a massive fail. OS X was Lion bought features like Messages, Notification Center, and the Game Center for Mac. Remember Game Center? Remember that? Is Game Center still an app? I don't know. I think it's not anymore. I think it's integrated into games. Game Center. There we go. Oh, it's actually now. Game Center is can be found in your settings now. What's new in Game Center? So there you go. It's still in here. Can you believe it? But it used to have its own app. So all you need to do to find it now is go to settings and just type Game Center. There it is. And you can find all your Game Center stuff there. It was a massive fail. Nobody gave a shit about Game Center as well. For the beginning, it was okay. But yeah, I found I could never get online and at the right time play with people. So that's 2012. In 2013, iOS 7 was announced, unveiled with a complete redesign and new features like Control Center. So just Control Center just looking different, pretty much. OS X was Mavericks, introduced improved battery life, Finder tabs. Wow, Finder tabs! Thank you, Apple. Are you starting to see a pattern here of why I'm not so excited about WWDC anymore? Starting to see a pattern. Mac Pro previewed with its cylindrical design. Remember that? Remember the cylindrical designed MacBook Pro of a garbage can as opposed to the cheese grater. And how well did that go? Not very well. iTunes Radio was announced as a streaming music service. iTunes Radio was announced in 2013. iTunes Radio? What is iTunes Radio? I don't know. It doesn't exist anymore. It's all been combined because 2 years later it would be combined into the streaming service with Beats Radio 1. So that was the beginning of Beats Radio 1. They were dabbling with this streaming music service, iTunes Radio. In 2014, WWDC introduced the iOS 8. So, yeah. And you'll notice here, everything's kind of numerical not matching up. So iPhones have a different number to iOS number. The year that released is not the same. So 2014 comes iOS 8 and probably it was iPhone 6. So the numbers are always off from the iOS, which is very confusing. And then as time goes on, they released more because back in the day, it was pretty much just iPhone and an iPad and that's it. Now, good luck. It's become a minefield walking through to decide what kind of thing that you want. Denise, hello, welcome. Welcome. iOS 8 released HealthKit, HomeKit. So now we're starting to get to the meat. Who knew that HealthKit and HomeKit were actually out in 2014? It seems like so long ago, and it only still feels to me, and you know, I have just as much of a goldfish memory as those fish in that tank. Isn't that right? Yeah. They're not very interactive, the fish. But they look good. But you can't really talk to them. Anyway, third-party keyboard support was announced in 2014. Do you know what third-party keyboard support is? Oh, man. It means you can add a different keyboard to your tappy little thing. Oh, man. So, 2014. Yosemite was the new Mac OS, and the big one for this year, which actually, in my opinion, felt like probably the most developer-centric WWDC I've ever watched, was the release of Swift, which is the coding for Apple. Jumped out of the box and said, we've created a new coding language, and they had it all ready for WWDC. They had apps which taught you how to use Swift. They had Swift Playground, I think that's what it's called. They were trying to get kids involved to come and get into programming. They were running campaigns to get girls involved in programming and all that kind of stuff. So there was a really heavy focus on development and to give developers tools to hopefully make things easier. We're going to find out. Are things easier? We've got a developer coming on the show this week, which will be really fun. 2015 was iOS 9, and they focused on performance improvements. You know what? I'm just jumping ahead to 2025. What I want this year is fucking that. Just performance improvements. I don't need anything else. Just make the thing work. Yeah? Just make it work. And can we just drop AI for a bit? OS X Capitan was released on 2015, brought refinements and performance enhancements. This was probably the first year that Apple resigned themselves to start not releasing big things, but instead to go, we're going to have a year off now, and we're going to try and refine some things. And the weird thing is that people responded very positively to this. I remember it very, very well. Now, I wasn't doing a show here on YouTube, but I was very involved in the iOS community over at iMore and a whole of these places that don't exist anymore back in the day. So it was very exciting to hear that Apple were like, you know what, we're listening and we want to make things work. Also, around this time too was, in that year, was the release of the Apple Watch. First Apple Watch, and I was an early adopter of the Apple Watch, and there was a reason for that, and I still stand by that reason. The first reason was I was working in an industry where I would travel around a lot with a suitcase on wheels, and I want to have hands free. I've already got one hand that's holding this thing that I have to drag around wherever I go. So carrying around a phone was very annoying. And the watch offered an opportunity to be able to put my phone in my bag and have instant access to notifications and still have a coffee. So, and you're probably thinking, yeah, but like $500 for a watch just for that? Yeah, of course. Like, that's value in my opinion. Anything that can shave off time or make things easier, the things I couldn't do, that I'm struggling every day juggling something. Yeah, $500, I'm down. And the first watch was actually really cool. I loved the first Apple Watch. I used it heaps. I fucking really enjoyed it. And the second reason I wanted it was because we live in a world where when we go out with people, people sit around at fucking pubs staring at their fucking phones. And I got sick to death of being that person of going, can you put your phone down? Are you here? Over here. We're out at a fucking nightclub, you idiot. What's going on? So instead of trying to get people to come to the party and put down their fucking goddamn phone, my idea was, I will put my phone away and try and lead by example. And it felt so good to sit there when the first phone came out and to sit there somewhere at a restaurant with friends and just go, my phone's the only one not on the table. Everyone else's phone is on the table. Oh, there's a message. Keep talking. I got an Apple Watch out of respect for my friends, to pay attention to them when I see them, because you don't see them all the time. So that was the idea. But, and to tell you, that iPhone, so I purchased that iPhone in 2014, that Apple Watch. That Apple Watch is still going strong. And you know who's got it? Cold Acre. I gave it to Cold Acre and as a hand-me-down, and he's still using it to this day. How cool is that? Adorable Anarchy, hello. Camp G, mate. What's going on? Camp G, mate. Thank you. I just saw a message come through from you. You just sent me a donation. Thank you, G, mate. You are. Thank you, G, mate. Love you, mate. Where was I up to? Oh, we're up to a halfway point. I should run an ad. Let's do that. We'll run our ad. Joanna Lynn. Hello, Joanna. I was going to say Happy Pride, but instead I've stopped saying Happy Pride this year. Instead, I'll just say what I say instead of that now. End fascism. There we go. Let's run an ad. Ad has been run. And you may or may not have got served an ad. While we're waiting for those who may have got served an ad, because I don't know how YouTube's algorithm work, they don't tell us. They just expect us to work it out and hope for the best. And it's the way Apple works, isn't it? So, tomorrow on the show, as we're speaking of WWDC today, well, guess what? Tomorrow, the actual event is happening, and we're going to cover it and see what the fuck went down. I'll make my predictions at the end of this and see what we get right. Do I care if I get it right or wrong? Not really, because there's not going to be anything that exciting. In fact, this year's WWDC is going to be a smokescreen. 100% smokescreen. So, also this week, we are taking a look at this little beauty right here, Pure Strings. And by tomorrow, the rest of the shows will be up on the channel. All right, let's come back, continue this rant. Swift. So the watch was released. I love the watch. I think I have a Series 3 now. But in 2015, WWDC 2015, iOS 9 was released with performance improvements, and they introduced a proactive assistant. I don't even know what the fuck that is. A proactive assistant. Does anybody have a proactive assistant on their iOS device? Anyone? Can you tell me what that is? Because it's certainly not Siri. Siri is about as useful as tits, and I just made everybody's thing go off, so I do apologize for that. But she is about as useful as tits on a fish. And, yeah. Well, what are you going to say? But apparently they introduced a proactive assistant. OS X was El Capitan. Well, we've already done this. Oh, no. And they released Apple Watch OS 2, because the first one never had an OS. Now it's Watch OS 2, which enabled native apps. What would Dana Carvey? There we go. It's more interesting than Apple. So they actually also released, so 2015 was when they released the streaming service, which is now everyone's streaming service, which is Apple Music and Beats Radio. 2016 was iOS 10. They introduced a redesigned lock screen. Ah! Oh, stop. It's too much technology. They released Messages app enhancements and a Siri SDK. Ooh, that didn't age well. Sierra was the Mac OS. It got renamed from OS X. They added Siri to Mac, introduced Auto Unlock, Watch OS 3, bought performance stuff and a new dock, and TV OS. So everything was starting to get this blah, blah OS, blah, blah OS, blah, blah OS. TV OS. Remember when Apple said they were going to change the way we watch television? And every year, we're going to change the way everybody watches television. You watch, it's coming. And what do we have now? A fucking million streaming services that all demand at least $15 each. And then when you sign up, the show that you signed up to watch within a week might not be there. It might be somewhere else that you'll have to go pay. The television thing is a mess, in my opinion. And Apple did not come through. They promised the big game and they didn't come through. Apple TV is just a wannabe Netflix. The good thing about it is it gets bundled into your plan if you've got cloud storage or any of that kind of shit. Look, it's around this time that things got really interesting. 2017 for me was the biggest update to iOS, in my opinion, because we got a Files app. We got Files app. I think it was 2017, WWDC iOS 11. I'm pretty sure it was the Files app that got released finally. Redesigned Control Center, AR Kit, and augmented reality apps, and I'm pretty sure that's when we got the Files app. The Files app was a mess when it first came out. It definitely wasn't the Files app everybody wanted. These weren't the droids we were looking for, but we may do, don't we? And we do our best with it. As you can see, as we get through the next few, there's not a lot of updates with each year. So 2017, iOS 11, High Sierra, bought APFS file system and Metal 2 graphics API. HomePod was announced. iPad Pro introduced 10.5 screen with ProMotion display. 2018 was iOS 12. Again, focused on performance, introduced screen time and emoji. Emojis, folks. These, it's funny, man. You live in this dream reality of, but they used to do so much back in the day. Emojis. You got emojis. That's it. It's not in the lunch. Mojave was the Mac OS. Added dark mode in 2018. Dark mode. Wow. Innovation. Stacks. Redesigned the Mac App Store. WatchOS got a new walkie-talkie feature. Anybody who's got a watch, have you used it? I think I used it once. 2019 was iOS 13. You got dark mode. You got to sign in with Apple, and you got a redesigned Photos app. And who knew we were going to get another redesigned Photos app only last year? And boy, was that a great redesign. iPad OS was announced, and they separated the OSs. So it was iPad OS and iPhone OS. iPad's got multitasking in 2019. macOS Catalina replaced iTunes with music, podcasts, and TV app. Mac Pro was unveiled with a new modular design with a Pro Display XDR. 2020 was a strange year because this is where things completely changed for keynotes and stuff because, of course, the pandemic happened and Apple took the opportunity to move to this super overproduced WWDC that doesn't have crowds. And obviously they couldn't do it because of the pandemic. But they, like a lot of things, just went, well, let's just keep doing this. Probably because it was a lot more cost efficient. They built this giant spaceship, which is now their home deck. And why bother flying people in when they could just do it all pre-produced? iOS 14 got an app library, widgets on the home screen. Fuck off widgets on the home screen. Really. App clips. I mean, let's just say it. They just did it for people who use Google. That's the only reason they added widgets. Big Sur redesigned interface. They basically turned Mac OS into iOS. This was the beginning. WatchOS 7, tvOS 14. How did it jump to 14? WatchOS 5, and then all of a sudden it was, in 2 years, WatchOS 5 became tvOS 14. Sorry, I'm getting confused. They're all the same shit, different bucket. 2021 was focus mode, live text, FaceTime enhancements, Monterey, universal control, Mac shortcuts, WatchOS 8. And as you can see, there's not a lot each year. These iterations got less and less. iOS 16 was customizable lock screens and enhanced messages app. 2023 introduced contact posters and name drop. 2014 focused on AI enhancements and personalization. And this gets us to here. What's going to happen tomorrow? Well, I will watch it so you don't have to. It goes live here at 3 a.m. It's on Apple's channel. And there's a lot of rumors. But here's the biggest rumor. Tomorrow's WWDC will be an absolute smokescreen. An absolute look over there because we don't want you to look here because we dropped the ball so bad. We're just not going to address it. If they address it, it'll be very interesting. I don't think they'll admit their mistakes. They never do. They'll never change. But let's just, we've got 15 minutes to just go over this now. Apple Intelligence was the biggest failure of Apple's. Massive failure. Absolute shit. And I'll just, has anybody used any of the AI features since it came out? Because here's the deal. The problem with the AI from the get-go, apart from just rebranding it with their own stupid name, is that for the most part, most people don't have access to it, even if it was released. Because as you can see, the way devices, phones and tablets have iterated over the years, there's not much room to go anywhere else. I mean, you've heard the saying, and it's so overplayed. The phones we have in our pockets far outweigh the technology that we put somebody on the moon with. And the rate of speed that these things got to the point that they're at now was over a good 10-year period. And it was just, we all know the explosion of phones and Apple's dominance in it and why they have so much money now. It was huge, and the technology was exploding. The touch screen, the pinch to zoom, all that stuff that they took Samsung and Google to court over. Huge advancements in technology. But you know what comes with advancements in technology? No more advancements in technology. There's only so much shit you can push uphill, right, till it gets to the point. The Casio fucking watch is an amazing piece of tech. If you get a genuine Casio, right? But yeah, so where was I? Hang on a minute. They dropped the ball with Apple Intelligence really bad. Where I think what they should have done, because Apple's whole mantra for the longest time since I've been involved with them has been think different. And you know what would have been the best way to think different is not release AI. Just don't do it. Just let everybody else do it. Just let everybody else do it, yeah? Because I don't fucking need it. And here's the thing. Because the technology has hit a stalemate, people aren't buying as many devices. You're getting longer periods of time. And don't believe the bullshit that you'll see conspiracy theorists talk about. Oh, what they do is they insert a program into the code. So once it's just not true. That's bullshit, right? Now, I used to work at Apple, all right? So anyway, it's bullshit. It's nonsense. If you're hearing that bullshit, go onto Flat Earth or whatever. It's nonsense. But what does happen is they are constantly upgrading the software to work with the technology. And Apple are guilty of creating scarcity, false scarcity, and things that, this you need to have. And they try and encourage people to buy a new device. So they put some of these features only available to a new device. The device can do it, but it will run slower because here's the deal. You all have done this. Everybody at some point has bought a laptop and gone, it can't be that bad for $300. And for the first month, it's okay, isn't it? And then you start putting some things on it, not a lot of things, and that slows down immensely. And you're like, why the fuck is this computer so slow? Because it's using old tech, and that's why it's so cheap. And what happens is with iOS devices, they try and cram stuff in. They take away headphone jacks, and they try and do all this stuff to make it as fast as possible that it can be. And the software utilizes that current bit of tech that is in there. Those small upgrades that to us mean shit, but to Apple, they're like, wow, look how streamlined this is, this new. But older firmware will not be able to deal with it, and devices slow down. Computers slow down. You know what? Fucking cars fuck up. Anything that kind of has moving parts, or it's going to slow down. The batteries are going to wear. The biggest problem with Apple, I think, is that what would really take them to the next level. I'll tell you what would make Apple would blow me away, and to really know that they're sticking by their mantra of think different, is if this year they release an iPhone with a removable battery. That would be thinking so fucking out the box. Imagine being able to change your own battery. I don't give a fuck about headphone jacks. Cry a fucking river. Who cares? I'm so much happier with fucking wireless headphones these days than wires hanging from my neck. So I don't care. Headphone jack, piss off. But I'm telling you, man, a replaceable battery, because the biggest problem with iPhones isn't that there's some kind of script in the fucking iOS that knows whenever there's a new update, they run the thing slower so you buy it. That's not a real thing. But what is a thing with these devices is that the battery commands everything. Most of the time when your device is slow and fucked, if you've still got an older device and you're upgrading to the latest OS and it's running slow, it's most of the time that your battery's fucked. And you can go to Apple now and get a battery replacement. It's not like the old days. It only costs like fucking $60 or something. Go get a new battery. An iPad Pro's like $100 and something to get a new battery. And they even put in there the battery test. But to be able to remove a battery would be incredible. So Apple's biggest problem is that AI bombed last year. They never released half the things. What they did release was shit. And there's been no mention of when all this stuff is coming. I don't see them announcing when all this stuff is coming, maybe just creating some excuses. But here's the big thing, and I know it's going to confuse a lot of people. The major thing that is happening this year is iOS, tvOS, macOS, all these things are going to be rebranded to 26. There will be no iOS 19 this year. There will be iOS 26. There will be macOS 26. There will be tvOS 26. Everybody will move to the number 26. Why is it moving to 26? Well, because it's going to move to the year. Will the phones move to 26? I don't know. Will we have an iPhone 26 this year and an iPad Pro 26 this year? Is that what they're going to do? Don't know. But the big rumors are out and about is that they are moving iOS to 26. That is the number. The rumors are that they're going to be AirPods and they're going to be smarter and they're going to be more interactive. They're just fucking headphones. I'll tell you what. Mini rant. I don't need my fucking headphones to be smart. I just need them to play fucking music in my ears and not fall out of my ears. Okay, Apple? Stop trying to make everything so smart. It's not going to be smart. It's not going to be smart. AI is never going to be smart. It is just going to be a collection of all of our history, which proves that human beings are just absolute and that it's not going to be able to do anything with that information. AI is just a massive data center that collects all the information about human history, and it will never do anything with it. And in fact, I wish it would just give us the truth and just tell us that you're all a bunch of absolute That's all it knows about us. Because we have a history of killing each other, lying to each other, destroying the fucking planet. We're just absolute dogs. And the AI knows that because it's read everything about us. But it doesn't have a brain and it's not going to do anything. Apple's whole thing with AI is a joke. It hasn't turned out good. It's rubbish. And hopefully there's something in there that is interesting, like a removable battery. How about something useful? But here's the deal. Tomorrow we're going to find out because I will watch it. And one thing I can guarantee you will happen at the WWDC. Nearly every single person who has a presentation will be wearing some form of boat shoes, some form of really pastel-y clothing that is gross. And they'll all be so overtly friendly and wishy-washy and horrible. You'll just be like, I would never talk to this person in real life. And most of them, male and female, will be wearing 3/4 boat pants. Because at Apple, everybody's rich and they all go on exclusive holidays and have a photo album of the most beautiful photos you've ever seen. Because they're all rich cunts and they don't give a fuck about you. We're done. Okay. Fuck Apple. I've had it. Just let me change my battery. Just let me change the battery. It's at 81%. I can't deal with it. All right, guys. You know what? Who cares? This is the thing. Who cares? There's bigger problems in the world. And if you are sitting there tomorrow and getting really worked up about this stuff, which I won't be, this is for entertainment purposes, my friends. I won't be. I will be watching WWDC and doing what I always do. Laugh my ass off at the whole thing, at the pretentiousness, at the wishy-washy wank that comes out of their mouths. And tomorrow I will be here explaining it in as funny a way as possible. And I'll be showing you all the boat shoes and three-quarter pants and pastel clothing that these assholes wear and act like they're one of us when they're not. They're just rich. And we're all poor and living check to check. And we can't afford a new iPhone each year, so fuck off with that shit. How about doing a new iPhone every 2 years? Let us get some air. Huh. All right. I need to play this before we go out. And I'm going to dump you over to Pete Johns. He's going to play your music live. Folks, Russ has just dropped a video for the charity album. He needs your help. There's been a couple of songs that have been submitted and we don't know who they are. So I'll point you over to this video. I'll play it for you now. And if you see your song here, spread this around because we're trying to find out who these two artists are. I think it's two anyway. Let's play this and do the things that make you happy. Mistakes make you better. All rise together. I'll see you tomorrow. See you over at Pete's. Let's play this right now. This is Russ's update. Boom. Let's go. Boom. Hi, Frank. And hi, Mike Shana. Please check. I have listed correctly and leave a comment if you require any alterations. Russ needs a little help with a couple of tracks, friends. Oh yeah, it's Pete's 5-year anniversary. Yeah. So he has a track called On the Move. He can't marry up with the email. Don't recognize the voice, so unable to tell. So we need to find who owns the song On the Move. So spread this around, my friends. I can come back here. Also, there's a song called Hot Dog Bun Garlic Bread. On the Move is yours. All right, thank you, Paws and Guitars. That one's sorted. But somebody's got a song called Garlic Bread, something. So I also have a track, again, I can't cross-reference. You're all awesome. And look, here are a list of all the artists. So this video is up on Russ's channel. I don't have the link. Man, look at all these amazing artists. Wicked stuff. Ninth Gate, Crimson Crux, Wolfstone Studio, Valerie Budd, Hypnotic Transmissions, the Lily Pillies. There's lots of them I don't know as well. Vulcan Blueser, Delicate Giants, Dan Ekberg, Chris Lane Senior, oh, he's Mishmash Cold Acre. Look at them all these amazing artists. Boom. All right, we'll see you over at Pete's. We'll see you back here. I'll see you back here tomorrow so I can decimate what went down at WWDC. I can't wait to shit all over it. Look at all these songs. So many songs. It's ridiculous. Thank you for putting that up there. All right, I'm out of here. See you over at Pete's. Let's oge, baby.